It's the end of the school year, and college-bound seniors wait for the magical letter that grants them admission to the next step of their future. After months of studying a plethora of SAT vocab cards and volunteering for hours upon hours, their hard work is finally put to the test to see whether colleges accept them. As of recent years, however, even exemplary students are being rejected without any plausible explanation, while some of their fellow classmates are getting into top colleges with nothing more than average grades and test scores. Over time, this has opened up more and more discussion about the controversial policy of affirmative action, which is an effort to promote the rights or progress of disadvantaged women or persons of minority groups by giving them special admission status. This story tonight on 7 Minutes.
Well, in many cases, affirmative action may actually raise the self-esteem of women and minorities by providing them with employment and opportunities for advancement, and thus it fulfills the original purpose. Studies and public opinion surveys suggest that the reaction of insecurity or failure from affirmative action students are really rare. For instance, a 1995 Gallup poll suggests when it asked employed blacks and employed white women whether they ever felt others question their abilities because of affirmative action, and nearly 90% of these respondents said no.
Was there a particular case or event that sparked the controversy behind affirmative action?
Well, it's really important to remember that affirmative action didn't just suddenly become opposed overnight. I mean, naturally, you're always going to have a couple of people who oppose an issue. However, in 1978, the Supreme Court case, Regents of the University of California versus Bake, was the first Supreme Court case that raised the issue about not forgetting the rights of the majority. In this case, Alan Bake was a Caucasian male, and he applied to the UC Davis Medical School twice. But unfortunately, he was rejected both times, while he claimed that less qualified minority applicants were getting accepted. Now, the court ruled in favor of the majority with a slim 5-4 majority. However, in 1997, the Proposition 209 banned affirmative action in California public sectors.
Have there been any other significant court cases regarding affirmative action?
Yes, actually there have been more Supreme Court cases. 18 years after the University of California versus Bake, a new Supreme Court case, the Hobbs-Wood versus Texas, overruled it. And they actually said that diversity as a primary issue was not in the state's interest. And more recently, the University of Michigan decided to go with affirmative action because they believed that it was helpful in providing many educational benefits, but this was also challenged by a Supreme Court justice. And although a compromise was reached in the form of a point value system, the conflict still continues in our country.
Affirmative action was first introduced by President Kennedy, and it became enforced by President Johnson under Executive Order 11246. This order required government agencies to hire minority employees in order to achieve greater diversity. Eventually, this idea was used in college admissions as well. Vocal supporters of affirmative action argue that the practice is good because diversity is good, and if affirmative action helps bring about a good result, then this too must be good. But other critics who look towards the middle ground say that this idea doesn't hold true because sometimes good ends are accomplished by bad means. So how would you respond to this?
Well, basically, the whole idea that these minorities are being given a leg up assumes that it is unfair because white students are being admitted on their merit alone. However, as many as 15% of freshmen at America's top schools are white students who fail to meet that university's minimum standards for admission, since these students are people with a long-standing relationship with the university. So, in other words, this basically means that they were children of the faculty or wealthy alumni or politicians. As we can see, normally white students have advantage over everyone else since they have these connections that other students may not have. Students from low socioeconomic areas are not going to have these same connections, and therefore they are at a disadvantage. That's why affirmative action is only creating a more leveled playing field.
Aluna believes that affirmative action will help balance the admissions process for those who are disadvantaged. She also states that a college education will only be beneficial if it includes various viewpoints, and these can only come with a diverse student body. Are you saying that you want these highly regarded universities to start accepting students that may not be able to perform at the university standards?
No, that is actually a huge misconception. The affirmative action policy actually chooses minorities who are at a disadvantage, but they are still very much capable of working in the university environment.
The reality is that affirmative action serves as reverse discrimination toward Caucasians. According to Senator James Webb, affirmative action has expanded so far beyond its original purpose that now it favors anyone who does not happen to be white. White students are being rejected regardless of their high SAT scores and ACT scores due to the fact that they can't help to diversify the campus.
But isn't some sort of help for the disadvantaged groups necessary?
Admitting unqualified minorities may only be setting them up for failure. If their academic merit is not up to the same rigor of their fellow classmates, in many of the instituted affirmative action plans, the goal to diversify a campus trumps everything. Why should lower performing students get into college based on ethnicity alone? We as a society are looking for smart, capable students who know their subject well enough to graduate and contribute their keen insight to the workforce, regardless of who they are ethnically.
You don't think that capable students should get a leg up when they're from a disadvantaged background?
Well, the original aim of affirmative action was to strive toward a community that is free of racial discrimination. I personally feel that affirmative action has the opposite effect. These programs have damaged racial harmony. The more they have grown, the less they have actually helped African Americans, the intended beneficiaries. Since affirmative action gives a leg up to minorities, minority groups can be admitted at lower expectation, which lowers the overall education standard. This ultimately leads to a cycle of detrimental results.
So many call this reverse discrimination. Expand upon this idea.
Okay. The problem with this well-intentioned plan is that it now attacks the majority, which in most cases is white Caucasians. They're going to be pushed aside while admissions officers look at the applications of minority groups in a different way. With intentions of creating a more diverse campus, there are numerous other ways to create a well-balanced campus that benefits all.
Daly argues that with the growing popularity of affirmative action, minorities get the impression that the only way to succeed is to use this policy.
Do you believe that affirmative action is helping society in a positive way?
Certainly, I would be lying if I said no.
Absolutely not. I feel like it would be way too idealistic.